Hello, everybody. Brett Rice from Core Vision Financial Group coming to you with the second installment in our web series on financial topics. Today, we're going to be joined by Andrea Lee, a financial advisor here at Core Vision Financial Group. And now we're going to give Andrea the opportunity to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I have been with Core Vision now for almost 3 years. So for the majority of what my time is spent, I do the financial planning here for our office. So I work with my own clients, and then I also work with the other 4 advisors in our office and their clients as well, just putting together some financial plans to help them reach some of their goal or work toward their goals for the future.
How did you come to get into being a financial advisor?
Well, kind of a long story. When I went to Indiana University, my degree is in exercise science, but originally I was an accounting major, and I got into A100, which is a weed out class, and it worked because I learned very quickly that I did not like tax accounting. So then I got my degree in exercise science, got married. I have 2 boys, and I was able to stay home with them for the majority of that time. And so that worked really well. But as my youngest started to approach kindergarten, I was looking maybe for something a little bit more. And so I spoke with the team here at Core Vision, and it seemed like it was going to be a good fit. And just from those conversations, it really made sense for me to become an advisor. And so then once I started there, and I just showed a real interest in planning. And I think some of that is because my degree in exercise science, I worked with my clients to work toward their goals. So yes, weight loss and retirement are not the same, but no matter what, if you have a large goal, you have to put small steps in place in order to get there. And so financial planning and that fitness experience that I had really paralleled pretty well. And it seemed like a very natural move for me when I got started.
I like how you compare your financial advice world with your physical fitness world, right? And talking about the small steps. You know, a lot of people get discouraged on both of those endeavors because they think they're huge steps, whereas there's, a lot of small micro type actions really build up. Doing, 5 push-ups one day eventually leads to being able to do 20. Not, oh, I can't do 20, I gotta quit, right? So same thing with, oh, I can save, a little bit every week. What's that impact long term, right? So comparing those two, that's a great way to put that, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. Okay, thank you, Andrew. We're glad to have you here today, and really interested to get busy talking about this topic. I think it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to find interesting, and it's something that I like to talk. You and I've had lots of conversations about this, so I think it's going to be a good, fun conversation. So what we're hoping to accomplish today as we talk through this is we're going to talk about, the what, the who, the when, the why, the where, and the how of financial planning. Kind of putting those foundational pieces in place, and hopefully answering some questions that people have that they've never asked, or never had the opportunity to ask, or just never really felt comfortable asking those questions. So we're hoping we can get some of these questions answered so people feel more informed about financial planning and understand why we feel it's so important. So let's go ahead and get started on this, Andrea. Let's talk about what is financial planning.
All right. Well, according to the Certified Financial Planner Board website, financial planning involves looking at a client's entire financial picture and advising them on how to achieve their short and long-term financial goals. From savings for education and planning for retirement to effectively managing taxes and insurance, financial planners develop valuable relationships with their clients to provide them with confidence today and a more secure tomorrow. And the reason that I chose a definition from the CFP board is just as far as financial planning is concerned, the CFP board is really the pinnacle of organizations that regulates the requirements for financial planning. So that was why I picked their definition. However, it was really lengthy and it may not make a ton of sense. So kind of in layman's terms, what that means is we want to sit down and talk about what your goals are. And those are going to be different for every single household, and they may even be different within each household. So spouses may have completely different goals. So first, it's really a conversation of finding out what those goals are, and then again, if you're in a household, being able to agree on what the goals are. And then we just kind of come up with the steps that we need to do along the way in order to help you get on track to hopefully reach those goals in the future. Yeah.
So I'm really glad that you gave like a definition of it and then used your own words to try and describe it. Because I think a lot of times people get hung up on the definition of something and don't understand that it does have flexible, boundaries and parameters in it that allow it to be custom fit for each person. So, some people are going to have a plan that, isn't going to be as comprehensive as someone who's, further along in the planning process or has more assets, or, it's not a one size fits all when it comes to financial planning. So thank you very much for taking the time to, read the definition and to give your own personal, explanation of it. So the next thing we're going to talk about, Andrea, is who of financial planning. Who should get financial planning? What's your opinion on that?
Okay, well, I think everyone can benefit from financial planning. Some people may require a full comprehensive plan that is going to look at your investment strategies. It's going to look at your tax strategies, estate planning. It's going to look at insurance and risk management. So some people really need those large, fully robust plans. However, some people can benefit from just basic financial advice. So they just need help with getting a budget in place and making sure that their current paycheck is going to cover their monthly bills. So it really ranges from very simple financial advice to very robust and time-consuming financial planning. Typically, the more assets that you have will require more planning to make sure that we're covering all the things that are needed, just to make sure that we're making the best choices with those assets.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to understand there's not a clear definition of who needs financial planning other than everyone, right? Everybody can use the help of a budget or a plan on how you're going to use your resources in order to, pay all your bills and hit savings goals and financial goals that you have, whether those are, just paying your bills every month, or whether you have additional financial goals like saving for retirement, saving for college, any of those, just putting your money to work, whatever those goals may be. So thank you for that. And I think next we're going to talk about the why of financial planning. Why is that important?
All right. Why we need to plan? There is a famous quote by the author of The Little Prince, and it is, "A goal without a plan is just a wish." And I think that's just a great way to say, we can sit and dream and think about all the things that we want to happen, but until we actually put steps in place, chances are that goal is never going to come to fruition. So financial planning will help put those steps in place so that we keep you on track and we're working toward those goals, whatever they may be. But without that plan, I just feel like it's kind of cross your fingers and hope it happens. So if there are things that are really important, for example, retirement would be something I would think most people would consider pretty important. We want to make sure that you're on track. And as the market fluctuates or life happens, all of those things can affect that plan. And so, we regularly will review the plan and make sure that as these things have happened, it hasn't put anything off track, or we don't need to tweak anything, or maybe we do. And so that way we just know that we're continually staying on the right path to work toward those goals.
Yeah, I think a common misconception in financial planning is that you do this once and then you put it, you just put your foot down on the gas and you go towards that goal. Where in actuality is, this plan is revisited at a minimum annually, to say, hey, what has changed in your life? Has your goals changed? Has your financial situation changed? Your liability changed? All of those things we all know, like you just said, life happens. Kids get older, kids get, start having different wants, needs, your family has those, things change. So it's good to constantly visit that and understand that it is not chiseled in stone. It's something that is going to need to be revisited, adjusted, and, then changed. And, potentially your goals change and you got a new course to be sat on. So that's a good explanation there, Andrea. Appreciate that. One of the things we're going to talk about now is when. When is it a good time for somebody to do financial planning?
I think that as soon as possible, you should talk to an advisor to see if you need financial planning, right? Is it something as simple as a budget, or do you need a robust plan? When the more time that you have to work toward those goals, the better off you are. So if we have to save for something, it's going to be a lot easier if we have 20 years to save for it versus 10. Now, having said that, if you only have 10, we still need to talk as soon as possible, because the longer we wait, it just is going to put more stress toward making those goals happen. And so really, as soon as possible, I think makes the most sense. And one thing that we haven't really touched on is don't be afraid to reach out and get started, because it's our goal is not to take your whole paycheck and put it in X, Y, and Z and you live on pennies a month. That's not the goal. You still need to have a good quality standard of life now. We just want to make sure that in the future you're set up to where if life does happen, that doesn't have to change your quality of life. So it's really just preparing, safeguarding for some of the risks that could happen, and preparing to work toward those goals, the savings goals that could be in the future.
Yeah, I think that your point on getting with an advisor as soon as possible, can make a huge difference. Everyone says they're saving for retirement and, they're putting money away and they're doing all these things. But, having a goal, like you talked about, do you have a plan for that? Do you understand, what all those pieces are of that retirement plan, what your Social Security benefit is if you're getting one, what your expected withdrawals off of your retirement savings are going to be. There's so many pieces to that, as we sat down with people and talked to them, you're like, if you looked at this, if you talked about this, do you know how much of this you're going to get? And filling in those bits and pieces, I think, help give people a sense of security and additional information that just, makes them say, okay, I do now have a plan. I do understand where all those, and whether, that plan works out the same as what you'd anticipated, now, I'm going to say relatively comfortably, you understand what that plan is. We understand it could change. There's a lot of, variables in there that could change that. But for the most part, you understand what your plan is now. So I do appreciate that. I think that's good information. And I think uh, people need to understand that they need to know that. Yeah, it's scary not knowing, and like you said, wishing and praying that, hey, this is going to work out. But I think better is knowing, hey, if I do know that I have a shortfall, at least I'm knowing in advance and I can make plans for that, as opposed to showing up there on that day you're planning on retiring. You're like, whoa, wait a second. You mean now I'm not going to have as much money as I thought I was? So working through that and understanding that is a huge step, I think. So thank you for that. So what we're going to talk about now is where can you get financial planning at?
Well, I am obviously a little biased because I feel like the best place to go and talk to an advisor is with Core Vision. We've got a team of 5 advisors here, and we each kind of have our own interest and specialty. So I feel like we've got a great team put together to where we can bounce ideas off of each other and talk about different scenarios to make sure that when we do create a plan for a client, it's really the best that our team has to offer. And so I feel like 5 brains are probably better than one. And so we're all able to use each other's professional and life experience, to really benefit the client. So my answer would be at Core Vision.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Core Vision is the best place to get that advice. And I do agree with you. I think having the 5 brains and, in this office, people have, kind of an area of specialty. So being able to have those people look at it and say, have you looked at this? Do this may be a blind spot here that you need to check out. So having those extra set of eyes, I totally agree, is a huge benefit of being in a multi advisor office. And then the how. How does somebody get started, Andrea, on financial planning?
Sure. So in order to contact us, we've got quite a few ways. Our website is www.corevisionfg.com. So you'll be able to find lots of information there as far as each of our bios. Our phone number is 317-398-8200. You can email us at info@corevisionfg.com. And then you can also find us on Twitter at CoreVisionFG, on Facebook at Core Vision Financial Group, or we also have a YouTube channel, which is Core Vision Financial Group. So lots of places that you can find us and some information as well.
Thank you, Andrea. So now, we want to wrap this up. Andrea, are there any additional bits of information you'd like to share with anybody? Anything you want to talk about before we close this out?
Yeah, I think don't let the fear of the unknown stop you from getting started. If you have any interest in sitting down with us, know that we didn't talk about pricing at all for plans, but don't let that be what stops you from getting started. And what I mean by that is to just give us a call, set up a meeting, come in, see what we have to offer, see what, your situation needs. That's free. So then from there, we'll see, really the amount of time that would take. And so then we would give you an idea of what a plan would cost. Typically, just to give you a range, it's probably going to be between $400 to $1,200. But if you are an existing client, then those fees could be dramatically decreased, and sometimes they're even included in just some of the benefits that you get as being a Core Vision client. So, first and foremost, if you're interested, give us a call, because at the end of the day, we are literally here to help, and so that's what we want to do. That's why we pick this field, and so. And then from there, we can see if it's a good match or not.
Yeah, we're not big, scary people. So don't be afraid to reach out, have that initial conversation, set up that first meeting and say, hey, I'd love to come in. just exchange a little bit of information so we can get a basic idea, of the kind of plan that, you're looking at and would need. So don't be afraid to reach out. Like Andrea said, there's a bunch of different ways to reach out to us. So we look forward to hearing from you. Again, this is Brett Rice with Core Vision Financial Group, joined today by Andrea Lee, also with Core Vision Financial Group. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.